This episode contains graphic content that describes bodily harm and physical assault. Be wary listening. This episode is explicit.
In the quiet town of Duncan, Oklahoma, where the streets wind past red dirt roads and small-town trust still carries weight, violence is a rare visitor. But in the fall of 1984, something changed. I am Michelle.
And I'm Isaiah.
And this is Shifting Veils, where we talk about the unexplained, possibly paranormal, and always strange.
In this week's episode, we are going to discuss some cold but still active criminal cases. And if you like that sort of thing, maybe give us a like, share, and follow. If after listening you realize that you have information regarding any of the cases we discuss in this episode, even if it is small, please note that we have disclosed the appropriate phone numbers to report that information to the correct authorities.
On the night of November 27th, as the last shops were closing and the wind brushed leaves across empty lots, one of the town's oldest cold cases began, quietly. A black Jeep sat idling in the east side parking lot of Goodner's grocery store. The driver's door was open. The engine was still running. But inside the vehicle, slumped in the seat, was a man, unmoving. That man was Gerald Snider, shot at close range, no witnesses, no suspect, no known reason why. Gerald was just 49 years old, a local man with roots in the community, the kind of person most would have passed on the street without a second thought. He wasn't in trouble. He wasn't known for making enemies. But that night, something, or someone, found him. Police were the first to discover the scene. Patrol officers spotted the open door and idling engine around 11 p.m. What they found inside was unlike anything they were used to seeing in Duncan. Captain J. Evans, now a veteran of the Duncan Police Department, would later reflect, they noticed a Jeep with the door open. That's when they discovered Gerald Snider had been shot there. There were no immediate clues, no shell casings in plain sight, no struggle, just the chilling stillness of a man taken suddenly, and the slow dawning realization that this wouldn't be solved easily. In the weeks that followed, rumors filled the void where answers should have been. Theories emerged. Was it a robbery gone wrong, a hit, a personal grudge, or something else entirely? But with no witnesses and no security cameras in 1984 Duncan, leads quickly dried up. And with no known enemies, detectives faced a wall of silence. Some came forward with tips, anonymous calls, half-truths, small-town whispers. Few tips came in over the years, only to be discredited under closer inspection. None of them panned out, and Gerald Snider's case was shelved. Not forgotten, but silent. For Gerald's family, the years turned into decades. No justice, no peace. Just a name in a file, a photo on a wall, and a man taken far too soon. Today, nearly 4 decades later, the Duncan Police Department still considers the case open. They've appealed to the public more than once, hoping someone will finally speak. Someone who might have been afraid back then. Someone who knows more than they let on. With modern forensic tools and renewed efforts in cold case reviews, there is hope. But time, as always, is the enemy. In small towns, secrets can last a lifetime. And sometimes monsters wear familiar faces. There are cases that make headlines, and then there are the quiet ones, the ones that never got the attention they deserved. The ones like Gerald Snider's that simmered just beneath the surface of memory. A man, a Jeep, a bullet, a town that never forgot, but never got the truth. Someone out there still knows what happened. And justice, even if it comes late, still matters. I think just recently, the Duncan Police Department put out a post on social media asking people if they had information for this case. So I know they're still actively trying to work on it. There's just been nothing. There's been no leads that have gone anywhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even now, like at this point in time, like you can't expect them. What is it, like 40 years later now? 50 years later?
I was
Since
in
84?
84. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know how much they're gonna expect out of anybody.
I mean, the person that did it may or may not still be with us, but, people talk. It's hard for me to believe that nobody that is still living doesn't know something. Somebody knows something.
Well, sure. I mean, there's always gonna be somebody that knows something. It's just,
Sometimes people don't talk because they think it's just not important. It's not enough information, maybe. Or
hmm
I think most times people don't talk because they're afraid. They don't want to get involved.
yeah,
Maybe they'll get in trouble with somebody, maybe they're afraid for their own safety. I don't know, but it's not fair for the family, to deal with that and there just be
absolutely.
nothing. It's just sad. Um, We're in Indiana, a small rural community etched into the gentle curves of Wells County. Here, farm fields stretch toward the horizon, and neighbors know one another's comings and goings by name. It's a place where doors stay unlocked, and the only real threat is the roar of a passing tractor at dawn. But on October 13th, 1989, something would shatter that sense of safety forever.
On that morning, in the quiet farmland of Warren, Indiana, Richard and Connie Herr left their home at approximately 8:30 a.m. Their daughter, 18-year-old Sheri Herr, remained behind. She was a bright student with a ready smile, attending Indiana Vocational Tech College in Fort Wayne, preparing for a career as a medical assistant. Sheri had class later that morning, but she never arrived. By 4:30 p.m., Richard Herr returned from work. He ascended the stairs to Sheri's bedroom. What he found would haunt the family and the community for decades. Sheri lay lifeless on the floor. The scene was brutal. An autopsy later confirmed the cause of death: blunt force trauma. Sheri had been bludgeoned repeatedly in the head and face with multiple objects. Her skull shattered. A pair of scissors had been driven into her throat. The coroner found no evidence of sexual assault. Investigators estimated the time of death between 9 a.m. and noon. There was no signs of forced entry. Nothing appeared to be stolen. The house was undisturbed, except for the violence that had occurred within. A single tip surfaced. A passerby reported seeing a suspicious man parked near the Hare residence that morning. He was described as a white male in his early 20s, driving a maroon Camaro from the 1970s. The man was never identified. The Indiana State Police assigned case number 22-17939 to Sheri's murder, flagging it as a priority within the Fort Wayne District investigations. Detectives interviewed neighbors, classmates, and anyone who'd seen Sheri that afternoon. They followed every tip: anonymous calls, late night letters, frantic leads that led nowhere. Yet, despite exhaustive efforts, the one suspicious male was never identified and questioned. No motive materialized. Even today, no one has ever been charged in connection with her death. Captain of Detectives at the time, now retired investigator, reflects: "We treated this like every other murder. We gathered evidence, we questioned people, but somewhere along the line, the trail just ended." As months returned into years, sorry, as months turned into years, Sheri's case slipped into the shadows of unsolved files. The farmhouse changed hands, neighbors moved away, new families moved in, and old memories began to fade, except for those closest to the crime. The Indiana State Police continue to list Sheri's murder among their open cold cases, urging anyone with information, no matter how small, to come forward. Advances in forensic science, they say, could one day breathe new life into the evidence preserved from that night. Though decades have passed, Sheri Herr is not forgotten. In Warren, her name still carries weight, in whispered recollections at the local diner, in the faded photograph that hangs in the sheriff's office, and in the annual pleas for justice that echo each October. Her family, now scattered by time and circumstance, keeps her memory alive through small gestures. A bouquet on her birthday, a mention at the family table. They refuse to let the silence win. Her father, Richard, passed away in 1998 without answers. The blunt force that stole Sheri Herr's life left a wound in her community, one that has never fully healed. But as long as the case remains open, there is hope. Hope that a hidden detail, a long lost witness, or breakthrough in technology will finally shed light on what happened that night of October 13th, 1989. In a town built on trust and neighborliness, every unanswered question is a call to action. In the end, silence obeys no one. Justice does.
That's just kind of crazy. And you said she was 18 years old. She's going to a
Attending
tech
college,
college. And someone, I mean, and the crime scene is just in the bedroom, right?
yeah, just in the bedroom. There's nothing else in the house that was disturbed.
I mean, bludgeoned in the face by multiple object. I do wonder, were they just objects from her room? Did someone come in and just kill her with whatever they could grab?
I mean, that's a good question because, I mean, there was nothing stated as objects being, in the room disturbed, except for Sheri.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious, like, what, I mean, if this is a small town as it says it is in Indiana, I mean, we got dirt roads out here in small towns. There's no foot tracks anywhere. There's no,
Well,
dust
there
prints
was a
or anything.
rainstorm. I remember reading that. There was a rainstorm that had happened that day.
So no mud prints.
There
It
was
boggles me.
nothing, I guess. By the time the dad had found her, like whatever tracks there would have been, they were gone. There was nothing. I think that there was some looking at some of the family members. I want to say a brother at some point, but whatever they did with that, that was all, you know, it didn't go anywhere. I
Hmm.
guess they didn't think of pursuing it any further than they did. But it just, I don't know. Is that not a crime of passion? Does that not sound, does that qualify as a crime? I mean,
Well,
beaten in the
so
face and then scissors in the throat and the
so I
neck?
mean, yeah, I mean, aside from the no sexual assault, but I mean, where my mind was going was that maybe she had an admirer she didn't notice while attending college, and maybe she decided to take the date with somebody else, and somebody, if they had that attitude of, well, if I can't have you, then nobody can.
It would have to be an admirer that no one knew about, I
Right.
would
So it's
imagine.
one of those people that bumped into her once, twice, that at a coffee shop. They never even knew each other's names, but he knew her well enough from a
I don't
distance.
know.
That's the kind of thing that pops in my head with this case.
I
It's
don't
just that
know.
that one silent person standing off in the distance.
Sometimes I feel like, not always, but sometimes I feel like these cases, it is like the authorities have got their suspicions, but they don't have just enough evidence to do something with it. So they don't do anything.
Hmm.
And I can't really say that's on them. I mean, yeah, they have to have proof. you know, it can't just be always circumstantial. Um, so I mean, I get that, but it's just, and so then that's where it's like, okay, well, you need people to speak up, but I don't know. It's wild because that's a small place, so it's almost guaranteed that, well, it's a possibility that the people that still live there, like, brush elbows or shoulders with the person that did this or people that know who did it routinely.
Mm-hmm.
because it's a small community. And if they don't today, they did once upon a time.
Well, and it could have been somebody just passing through town had an urge and oh, just continued on
It's a
after that.
horrible urge.
Well, I mean, people have those urges clearly because we do
I
have
do.
murderers and serial killers throughout
My
the world.
urges are like, I want some french fries. It's never let me go bludgeon somebody in the face.
I mean, that's a good thing. Maybe we don't want to be that off kilter.
uh, I don't know. That's just wild.
It is. I mean, there's possibilities, but I mean, like you said, the information that's found usually just falls short. I would, I would, I would have wanted to question other students in the same school because my mind
I'm
is
sure they
it,
did.
it just it always lands on that one because it's such a common case where there's a distant admirer that knows their I'll quote unquote victim,
Yeah.
and the victim has no clue about their existence because they're living their life, you
Yeah.
know?
She could have, I'm not certain, but she could have possibly also still been a senior in high school. I don't know. I know whenever I was a senior, you could also go to the tech college.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if they were doing that then
Yeah, I mean,
already.
you would attend tech college. You get those college credits started early, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she could have still been in high school. I know she was in athletics. It could have been a simple case of someone being jealous. Um, but I'm sure that they talked to best friends and schoolmates and teachers and just everybody. It's a small community, so it's probably not that. Sure, it's a big task, but it's not as big of a task if you're thinking of like a bigger city for them to talk to everybody.
Hmm.
So, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure that they vetted everyone. I I don't know. It's just I don't know. That's That's bad. You raise your kid, they get to be 18, and as a parent, you're thinking, well, I kept him alive.
Oh, for
I got him
sure.
through being a little kid, and they're almost done with high school, or they are just done with high school, and now they're, going to college for their career. And,
Going out into the world.
yeah, I mean, they've got dreams and aspirations, and you never stop worrying about your kid, but at that point, as a parent, you're like, we made it. We
Hmm.
made it to that threshold. And then that's just,
Yeah.
gosh, that's a blow.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the snowy plains of South Dakota in 1976, a modern tragedy unfolded that would become emblematic of profound injustice and the deep scars left when truth is buried deliberately. This is the story of Anna Aquash, an activist for the indigenous whose execution style murder remains both controversial and haunting. Born in 1945, Anna Aquash was a Mi'kmaq woman and First Nations activist from Nova Scotia, Canada. In the turbulent 1960s, she relocated to Boston, where she became part of a growing network of indigenous resistance. Among urban indigenous communities, she stood at the forefront of efforts to confront systemic injustice, focusing on education, civil rights, and the escalating violence inflicted by law enforcement. Aquash soon aligned herself with the American Indian Movement, or AIM, a group known for its uncompromising stance against federal oppression and its high-profile occupations. She participated in several of these direct actions, becoming a visible and committed figure within the movement. Her activism placed her at the heart of a volatile era, one marked by surveillance, internal suspicion, and tragic consequences. Rumors swirled, and in December of 1975, Aquash quietly disappeared. For nearly 2 months, no one knew where she was. When her body was discovered on February 24, 1976, lying beside a rural state road in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, It was winter's thaw that revealed the horror. Initially, authorities concluded she died of exposure. The autopsy overlooked a fatal detail.
Weeks later, in contradiction to initial findings, her remains were exhumed. A second autopsy revealed the truth. A .32 caliber bullet lodged near her left eye socket, fired upward, missing the brain but ensuring death. The official ruling shifted to homicide. Anna Aquash had been executed. Yet arrests and charges remained elusive. For decades, the perpetrators were hidden behind layers of fear, withholding, and fearsome loyalty. Loyalty to a movement that couldn't afford internal betrayal. Over the years, suspicion centered on American Indian movement members, particularly Arlo Looking Cloud and John Graham, implicated through testimony and investigative journalism. In 2004, Looking Cloud was convicted of murder. Graham, extradited from Canada in 2003, was convicted in 2010, both sentenced to life in prison. Still, many believe others were involved who were never held accountable. Leonard Peltier, perhaps the most high-profile American Indian Movement member, is rumored by some, including Anna Mae's daughter, to have played a role. She believed that Peltier thought Anna Mae Aquash was an FBI informant, yet he neither has been charged nor publicly cleared. Her family and allies continue to demand a fuller reckoning, not just prosecution but truth. They argue the FBI's initial missteps, from the misdiagnosis of her death to allegations of evidence tampering, reflect broader institutional abuses. Anna Mae Aquash is remembered across generations as a mother, activist, and symbol. Her life and death underscore systemic failures faced by Indigenous communities, the silencing of truth, the refusal to protect victims, and the enduring need for transparency. Her story continues to resonate, inspiring documentary films, academic works, and renewed calls for accountability, including recent activism by her daughter to revisit Leonard Peltier's possible role. Anna Mae Aquash was killed more than once, first when her life was lost on that cold winter day, and again when her death was dismissed as accidental. But silence cannot erase her sacrifice.
Her story has always been profoundly sad to me. I could be wrong. I know at least her, but I'm wanting to say her and a sibling were found in an abandoned wigwam. Is that how you say the word? Sorry.
I,
You don't know?
yeah, I guess.
They were
We call
found
them
in an
teepees.
they were found in an abandoned one and rescued. And that's kind of an amazing thing in and of itself. And then later to go on and fight so boldly as an activist for the rights of people that were suffering injustice, and then to be executed. It's just, I don't know. um, 3 lives, 3 very different stories, but one thread binds them: silence where there should be justice. Gerald Snider gunned down in the quiet lot of a grocery store in Duncan, Oklahoma, his black Jeep left idling as if time had paused in shock. Sheri Herr was 18 when her life was violently taken inside the safety of her own home. Decades later, geez, it is Herr, right?
That's the way I was pronouncing it.
Okay. Sheri Herr was 18 when her life was violently taken inside the safety of her own home. Decades later, her case remains unsolved, an enduring heartbreak for her family and a haunting mystery for the small town of Warren, Indiana. Anna Mae Aquash, a warrior for her people, silenced by a gunshot on the cold plains of South Dakota, her name echoing through the halls of both power and protest. Each case remains an open wound in its community, held open not just by grief, but by a lack of answers. No matter the years that pass, for the families left behind, the clocks never moved forward. Closure has no calendar. From rural Indiana to reservation lands, from small town streets to movement headquarters, these cases remind us that justice delayed is more than justice denied. It's trauma extended, a brutal form of forgetting that insists on repeating itself case after case. But still, people remember. Investigators reopen files, families keep photos framed by hope, strangers read the names and light a mental candle, and journalists, filmmakers, podcasters, and citizen sleuths continue to ask the uncomfortable questions. Because the moment we stop asking is the moment the stories end and those responsible win.